So I'm going to start straight away into this presentation. So gliomas are statistically the most frequent type of brain tumors. For starters, the tumor in itself has two general types, one being benign and the other malignant. Benign or the non-cancerous tumor cells spread in a rather atypical way, however, never reach and latch onto the other organism tissue or organs in the body. Second type, as mentioned, is malignant. A malignant tumor means it's cancerous and can spread throughout the body, tackling its organs and tissues. There's four different characterizations when it comes to glioma brain tumors. That's from 1 to 4. 1 being the weakest, or it's either benign or is categorized by slow-growing tumor cells. And category 4 is the most aggressive type of the cancerous glioma brain tumor, meaning that the cells are growing faster and that they are more easily developed with the cancer at these such stages. MRIs, or magnetic resonant imaging techniques, aid doctors to come up with a diagnosis of brain tumors. The classification of the brain tumor is extremely crucial in clinical practices, being that the diagnosis is challenging to detect in early stages. It is most crucial that glioma brain tumor grade classification system need to be in place to support the healthcare specialists. Right here, we're basically going to be discussing the type of neural network presented into this research paper, that being a CNN or convolutional neural networks. So the CNNs can be considered as one of the most successful approaches for image classification tasks, such as seen in this presentation. CNNs belong to a deep learning method as a subclass of machine learning field, and they produce incredible results in the computer vision applications. In the case of medicine, and more specifically MRI scans of glioma tumors, CNNs are efficiently used in different type of image classification and segmentation. Also, one thing noted here, in the research proposed in this paper, an automated framework has been presented for designing optimal or suboptimal CNN structure by hybridized elephant herding optimization, or for short EHO, swarm intelligence metaheuristics. The research shown in this manuscript is an extension of the previous works from the domain of MRI image classifications, as well as from the area of EHO metaheuristic improvements. So a little bit of the background and the related works. The CNN basic structure is built on 3 sorts of layers, specifically first being convolutional layer, pooling layer, and the last layer being the fully connected or FC layers. For each of these layers, it extracts information from the input image data. First layer extracts more information, and through the structure, it captures more specific shapes and, in the end, concrete objects. By processing image data with CNNs, features are not lost, which is a very important tool in making a good prediction. Second is the pooling layer, which is applied for feature map dimensionality reduction, and it has 2 main types, max pooling and average pooling, and this is what we'll later see and discuss in the pseudocode. And finally, the CNN architecture. It has 1 or more FC layers, and the last of these layers always finishes with the classification layer and the roots. So further discussing for starters, the basic EHO algorithm, or the EHO metaheuristics. They were originally introduced by Professor Shenxi Wang with the purpose to address the global optimization tasks. The algorithm was created off of the premise of why and how elephants in herds communicate and behave socially when they are in herds. Till it emerged, the EHO was practically implemented in several ways. For example, static drone placement problems or node localization in WSNs. But in this case, now it's multi-level image thresholds. And also now further discussing the variables of the actual proposed algorithm. I'm going to just explain briefly here that in the herd, every elephant is depicted with the integer vector 2n in dimension. Every elephant or J in both the clans CI updates according to the current position and is in respect to the matriarch CI through an updating operator. Subsequently, the variation of the population in the herd is improved by applying the separating operator at the next generations of the algorithm's execution. So here, firstly, looking at figure 1, the elephants are then separated in n clans. The updating operator can be formulated as follows. Every elephant being J in the clan CI updates the position under the influence of the matriarch CI, then is considered to have the best fit in the complete generation, and that is shown here below. Further looking at figure 2, which is X new Cij is the new position of the individual J in the clan CI, and X best CI denotes the currently best solution in the observed clan CI. In figure 3 here below, the X center CID, this basically indicates that the total dimension of the search space and the center of the given clan CI X center CID can be calculated in the following way from D minus TH dimensional problems. And for the last one, the figure 4, this is basically just stating the separation operator that can be modeled in this following way, and that's denoted as the X horse CI equation. Right here, further, now this is looking into the pseudocode of our proposed hybridized elephant algorithm. And in the case with all other metaheuristics, each algorithm has certain drawbacks. After executing numerous practical tests against the traditional sets of benchmark functions, it is possible to note that in this original EHO algorithm, it has a flaw that the balance between the exploitation and exploration processes is not properly adjusted. And proposed in this paper, also the original EHO metaheuristics have been hybridized with the well-recognized ABC metaheuristics. The hybrid algorithm also modifies the way of removing the bad solutions from the population. To achieve this, another parameter seen here, limit, has been utilized, and it limits the number of rounds where a certain solution cannot be enhanced by the exploitation. Likewise, the limit is used as follows. In each of the rounds of the algorithm's run, if a particular solution is not possible to be enhanced, the value of the corresponding limit is increased by 1. So here, this is just looking at the experimental setup and how we went about looking at the actual parameters of the minimum and the maximum limits of following layers and sizes. Here we can see that there are a couple differences, especially when it came to filters and the hidden knowns. And this is basically a good thing, seeing that the minimum is at this number of 128 and the maximum being at 512, because that just shows you that through the hybridized algorithm process, when it was being used with the data sets, that so many discrepancies were eradicated throughout the process of the algorithm being taken place. Here are just a couple sample pictures of the different glioma grades that we encountered in the time of the experimental phase of using this hybridized algorithm. Here, of course, versus what we've seen in the previous slide, is a picture of a normal brain without any glioma brain tumor cells. Here, furthermore, we're just looking and cross-comparing the control in table 2, of course, control parameters of the MFA used in the simulations. That's just basically discussing the algorithm. the maximum iteration is set to 15, and the experiment here was repeated 5 times. Also important to state, and the parameters used in the experiment are presented in this table. And in table 3 here, we can see below here that this is just a comparison of the proposed methods of different hybridized and used algorithms. As you can tell here, the CNN, the HEHO, has the highest number of accuracy versus just the original EHO algorithm, and it increased by 0.65%. So of course that increasing within like the last several years that it has been proposed, and it's only showing that it is increasing in accuracy versus other algorithms as well. Here, so typically the proposed method achieved here is just determining and stating the differences from the HEHO algorithm to the other ones compared in the previous slide here. And for conclusion, the research shown in this manuscript proposes a hybridized version of the EHO metaheuristics that was adapted for designing the CNN for classifying MRI images of glioma brain tumors. And the proposed hybridized EHO was validated against the basic EHO and other well-known SI methods for CNN designed in the comparative analysis. Results from the executed experiments clearly suggest that the hybridized EHO that was introduced in this research outperformed the basic EHO and other methods that were encompassed in the comparative analysis. Thank you.
Stefan, could you please, discuss maybe what's standing in the way of actually using more artificial intelligence in medicine? What are the challenges of training machine learning algorithms on medical data, and what are the challenges of applying it to the real life scenarios?
Well, currently with the problem of it is just the fact of putting the initial, for example, using the MRI scans or any type of CT scan in the hospital, once the input image has been inserted through this and the algorithm is going through this image, there's many different layers that it needs to go through still. And unfortunately, this is all still in theory of what it can do and how it can perform. And through this type of specific algorithm, it dictates and shows where the actual pinpoints of the glioma brain tumor cells are. However, in real life, the technology there in itself is still in process to work with the actual hybridized algorithms of these neural networks and to be used in a practical sense. For example, in this current situation, it had to go through 4 different conventional layers, and many of those times, unfortunately, I think it's still because of the actual data sets coming in, it does not work or quantify with the max pools that go through each of the conventional layers, ultimately dictating in some sort of software maximum that we can actually come with a proposed result.